Huge welcome everyone, it's Janette here from Case Flower School, and today's class is going to be about revamping up your Christmas door wreath. So we're all at this time of the year where this is what's hanging on your door. It looked absolutely fabulous before Christmas, but now it's dried out, it's dead, it's a bit dilapidated. To be honest, it's fit for the bin. But what we're going to do is show you how to be a little bit more sustainable, a little bit more like, what would you call it, biodegradable, basically sustaining the environment, okay? We're going to upcycle it, recycle it, we're going to use up everything. So first thing you have to do is strip down the base. So there's some artificial holly in this particular base, and as I remove the items, I'm going to straighten out the stems. So again, we have some of the flocked like velvet poinsettia flowers. I have some of the dried out lemon slices. Now what I found with our lemon slices, okay, this year, depending on, are you hanging your Christmas door wreath out in the elements where your lemon slices got wet? And if they did, then you might find that they may have went mildewed, or in my case, because my house has a porch door on it, these were all kind of kept dry, they didn't get wet throughout the year. So I'll be able to reuse all of these again. Now if you find that they're a tiny little bit damp, what you could do is leave them on your radiator as a source of heat over the next few days, let them dry out, and then they will be absolutely fine. If you straighten the wires as you go along, you'll find next year, because obviously we'll be able to reuse all of this material next year. Next year then, you'll be able to replace it along with maybe some new stuff, you know what I mean? You'll always want something a little bit new just to kind of make it look brand new, I suppose, for Christmas 2024. But if you keep all the stems straight, it'll be easier to work with them next year. I find when I'm packing them away, I pack them away with my Christmas decorations, okay? But when you're packing them away, especially the dried out fruit slices, wrap them in paper rather than a plastic bag, and I just find that they hold out a lot better, okay? And as I said there, make sure that they're not damp. So any pine cones, I had pulled off some of the pine cones this before I started, and then I said, you know what, we'll stick on a video and we'll actually video this as we go along. So the last thing then I have to remove is the bow. And again, this bow is well flattened, but next year again I can fluff it back out. But normally what I like to do is undo the wire that was holding the bow, okay? Straighten out our ribbons, kind of go along. This one has like a wire edge on it, you know, that way. So like straighten out the edge, do the same on the opposite side, okay? And then fold up the ribbon and store it kind of folded. And I feel then it'll look a lot fresher. It'll look like I'm after running the iron over it then next year. So again, fold it over in half there, fold it again, and again you can spend a little bit more time, you know, that way, just kind of getting all the creases out of it, and then you have a nice piece of fabric ribbon to use next year. So now all that material gets placed into your brown bag. I know it looks like I'm throwing it on the floor, not literally, I am going to pick it all up later on. Then you're left with the empty base. So this is your empty base, which normally you would throw it in the bin. There's a ribbon and all on this one for hanging on the door. I'm just going to remove that as well. Now these frames are made on a wire frame, so the actual foliage itself is made on a frame similar to this. I'll just place it against it. This one was made on a green one, where this is like a copper wire frame. And you can buy these, actually we have them for sale on our website, but you can buy them from most flower shops or wholesalers. So what you need now is a roll of real wire. And what we're going to do is we're going to make a brand new winter wreath, okay, early spring, whatever you want to call it, onto this base. So I'm going to first of all attach the real wire. So hold it just with my thumb in place, and then wrap the real wire around it. Twine will do exactly the same job. I'm then squeezing in all the foliage that's on the base, so you can see there, and I'm pulling it. So squeezing in the branch and then wrapping the wire around. Squeezing it in, wrapping it around. And at the beginning, I'm probably leaving about 2 centimeters gaps, just to kind of show you. See the way that's kind of going narrower there, right? So squeezing in all the branches that are sticking out, pulling them nice and tight, and I am going to go around the second time, okay? So the first time is a bit slow, because obviously you're kind of like trying to catch them in and hold them in place while you wrap the wire around it. Now some of them will just stick out, a bit like your hair, you know, that way you'll have no control over it, so just do the best you can, you know, that way. And as I said, we'll be going around the second time, and the second time will help to hold them in even a little bit more. Now again, I'll hold it up just so you can see what it looks like. That's the side that I have trimmed, that's the side that I haven't went near yet. So I'm going to continue my way all the way around. Now, The next wreath, the new wreath that I want to make on this base, okay, I want to make it nice and large and chunky, because basically I'm going to use material that's costing me absolutely nothing. There's a bit of Ilex berry there, I'm going to take that out there. So you can leave it on, it's just it was kind of sticking on a bit of a funny angle there, and I didn't want it falling off kind of like later on. There's also a bit of dried eucalyptus in there, and I'm leaving it on, that's absolutely fine. Now if there's anybody watching and you'd like to do this, okay, it is going to get nicer, and you'd like to copy what I'm doing, but you haven't got an old Christmas wreath, what you could do is you could use that copper wire ring that I showed you there a while ago, along with the roll of real wire, get some branches of eucalyptus, rest the eucalyptus onto the wreath frame, and you can do exactly the same thing what I'm doing here. Now I'm actually around the first time, so that's what it looks like the first time round. So if you were to rewind the video, you'll see it looks that little bit smaller. So now I'm going to go around the second time, and this is just a bit of a tidy up, okay? It's like going over your hair with the straightener the second time round. It'll just really tidy it up a little bit. But as I said, I'm not really worried if there's a few little branches sticking out. Now, this time I'm leaving a bigger gap in between the real wire. I'm probably leaving 4 or 5 centimetres, where earlier on I was probably only leaving 2 centimetres. So round and round and round I go until I get to where I think I started, you know, that way. And there still is an odd little bit sticking out, but it'll be absolutely fine, okay? So I'm around now, I think, to where I just about started, and there is my frame ready to go. And it's nice and big and chunky, and it's going to support the frame, the wreath that I'm going to make onto it. Next thing then is out to the garden. Out to the garden and see what you can forage. So Deirdre and myself were out in our own gardens this morning, and I'm just going to undo some of these bunches because I had them kind of done, prepared just to save a little bit of time. So there's just a little bit of real wire wrapped around. So in my own garden, this is actually Skimmia from my own garden. That's the wild ivy, but look at the blackberry on it, it's fabulous. So that's actually out of Deirdre's garden. So I have a couple of little bits of the wild ivy, little bits of the Skimmia, just basically resting them together, bunching them together, getting your little bit of real wire, and then just wrapping it around a number of times. The heavier the branches or the heavier the bunches that you're making, the more real wire you need to wrap around it. This one here, again, I'll just undo the wire just to show you. So again, a bit of the wild ivy. There's another bit of the wild ivy with the berry on it. But this time there's a bit of the black pittosporum added in. And there's also a little bit of the Skimmia. So you can see there, no particular pattern, no particular system. And then what you do is you get a bit of real wire, wrap it around a number of times just to hold it together. A bit of twine will do exactly the same job. And there's all your bunches made. Now, everyone says, how many bunches are you going to use? It depends on, look at the dirt in my hands after wiring them up. It depends on how big and chunky you want to make this wreath. And I want to make this one quite big and quite chunky. And the idea is this is going to dry out, and this will bring me right through to the middle end of February. So I'll get a good 4 weeks, pushing 6 weeks, depending, you know, that way you'll definitely get 4 weeks out of it, and that'll bring us up to our spring door wreath class. So this is probably more of what I would call late winter wreath. Or as I had a few jokers on, what were they calling them? The hedge, what were they calling it, Deirdre? The hedge hijacker. The hedge hijacker. So go out and hijack that hedge yourself, you know that way. So lots of them had some funny names for it. We had some great crack. So you pick up your bunch, okay, that's wired together. You place it on a 45-degree angle onto the base, okay? And I know that bit where I'm pointing with my finger is a little bit untidy, but you'll see afterwards that's all going to be covered in. If you're limited with the number, if you weren't able to hijack that hedge and you had a limited number of bunches, what you could do is you could place it directly onto the base, but the wreath will turn out a lot smaller. Now, there was no limit to what I was able to hijack this today, so we're going to place it on the 45-degree angle, and I'm wrapping the real wire around the end of the bunch where the wire was holding the bunch together. I'm picking up my second bunch and I'm placing it kind of on an angle beside it, and again I'm doing the same thing, and I'm placing my third bunch again just alongside it, and again you can see the way I'm wrapping the real wire around them to secure them. And I normally wrap the real wire around 2 or 3 times. There's our fourth bunch, again just place it on an angle and again wrap it around, and you can continue doing exactly that all the way around. But now I want to show you another little trick, right? So that's what it looks like so far. But you see on the inside where it can look a little bit untidy. So what I then do, this will be my 5th bunch, okay, is I lay that along the inside, and now I'm going to attach that wire around it, okay? But what that'll immediately do, it makes the wreath look so much chunkier, and it covers all the mechanics, okay, all them raw ends, but it makes it look a much bigger, more luxurious wreath. So now I'm back to the technique of placing it on an angle and then wrapping the real wire around it. So normally I find is I get to add in about 4 or 5 bunches on the angle. Now you might only get 3, and it depends, okay? So 3, 4 or 5 bunches, and then I'd normally find that the 5th one, you know, that way, the last one anyway, I place it to the inside of the frame just to cover the mechanics. So again, I think I'm on the 4th one here approximately, going in on a slant on my second round, and then I'm going to get this bunch and I'm going to bring it in there to see on the inside, and that's what covers your mechanics, and then secure that with the real wire wrapped around it. Now the real wire, you can buy them again from our website. I actually think we have a kit on the website for sale where you can buy the copper wire rings, you can buy the real wire, and I think we sell bunches of wires and rolls of organza ribbon with it, that you have everything you need to make a door wreath at home yourself. Well, as I said, the idea of this class was to show people how to revamp up the Christmas door wreath that, as I said, is definitely fit for the bin that's hanging on the door. So again, I'm on my 3rd bunch there. I'm now going to add in the 4th bunch just beside it, and then I'm ready again for that inside bunch. And you see this bunch here that I have, that's the little seed head or flower head of the cassia plant. I actually got some of that in my own garden this morning, and it just complements the gorgeous black berries. Do you see that was on the ivy? So now we have these white berries as well. So again, I'll just hold it up just so that you can see it. That's what it looks like so far. And I'm going to show you the back of it. That's what it looks like at the back. And you can see then how much the material is sticking out from it. So again, if you were to rewind the video back to the beginning where I had just had the frame made, and you've seen how small the frame was. Well, when I say it was small, it was a 12-inch frame. But like how small it looks, like it was made onto one of them frames. Like look at the size it is now. That's the same wire ring that I showed you at the beginning. So off we go now, placing our material in on a slant, okay, side by side. Now I know some of you are going to say, like, how many bunches in total did I use? I haven't been counting them, okay? So you'll need to rewind and go back. But as I said, I made my bunches quite chunky and quite large, you know what I mean, because that was my plan, was to make a nice big luxurious wreath. I'll just see this little bunch here. I have a bit of the ceanothus. You know the ceanothus that gets the blue flower on it in the summertime? And again, if you follow us on YouTube, you'll see that we will have a ceanothus door wreath class, like coming up that time of the year. As in June, we'll have our hydrangea door wreath. We'll have our spring door wreaths, our autumn door wreaths. Like throughout the whole year, we have these free classes all the time. Well, what do we do here at Case Flower School? So basically what we do are professional commercial courses, okay, geared towards people who want to work in a flower shop or work from home on a commercial basis. So the idea is that we're teaching you how to work out the stem count, what the cost price of the materials is, okay? You won't be foraging everything. Where to buy the material. Again, are you buying your flowers in from Holland direct, which is what we do for our students, and all of our students attending our courses get a fresh flower delivery direct from Holland to their own hall door. We supply all of the materials that they need for the class. So they've been taught about the suppliers, the wholesalers, how to condition and treat the flowers, the stem count, the cost prices, and the formulas for the selling prices. So it is quite intensive, and it is kind of eventually geared towards working in a flower shop or working from home, and maybe as a home-based studio, and some people would go on to be maybe a wedding florist or an event specialist. Now I'm just at my last bunch, okay? So when you come to your last bunch, which is going into this gap here, okay, what you'll find it easier to do is, here's my bunch, lift up that first bunch that I started with, and basically tuck the tail end of this one in there, but kind of keep that bunch more straight, more vertical than on that 45-degree angle. And when you're bringing the wire to wrap it around, okay, you don't want to obviously just wrap the wire around and flatten it down like what I did with the Christmas spruce at the beginning. So you'll see there the way I'm wiggling the wire in through the base. Normally what I call it is the wiggling and wangling, okay? So when I'm bringing the wire, I'm pulling it nice and tight here. So again, I'm wiggling the wire to see in between the berries, in between the leaves, kind of in and out through it, grabbing it down there, catching it underneath, and then pulling it nice and tight, okay? to secure it. Just having a little check there, yeah, just to make sure I have enough in. And you can see there is some fabulous textures there. Lovely textures, lovely shades of green. As we say here in Ireland, 40 shades of green. I'm now going to cut the real wire at the back, okay? And then the bit of surplus wire, I'm actually going to cut it a bit shorter. The little bit of surplus wire that's left over, I'm bending that over into like a U-bend, excuse the dirt on my fingers, into a U-bend and sticking the wire back up into the base so that it won't unravel, because that's what's holding everything in place. And the last thing, like, is again if you want to decorate it with a bow. So I have some fabulous velvet ribbons here. I have this kind of green one. I have this beautiful dusty pink, okay, and I have this really luxurious kind of like royal blue colour. It's completely up to yourself which colour you prefer. You probably knew I was going to probably pick the pink, okay. So you get your length of ribbon. Normally what I like to do is I fancy off the end of them. Scissors could probably do a bit of a sharpen here. So what I do is I fold them over in half. I do like a 45-degree angle cut up into the centre of the ribbon. Probably should have done one at a time rather than the double layer here. Anyway, it worked. And you see the way I get that kind of like fancy dovetail at the end, okay? And then the piece of ribbon, because obviously it's one-sided, okay? So I just kind of want to just kind of like flatten the end of the ribbon here at the back. Just kind of hold it, that I have my two pieces of ribbon, you see, just to trail down. I'm then just going to squeeze in the ends of that, kind of like gather them in together. I'm going to use a wire, like a 20 or a 22 gauge wire will do fine. I'm going to make what we call a hairpin bend. It's like hook on the wire. I'm going to rest it on the end of the ribbon where I have it squeezed and gathered in, and then I'm going to wrap that wire around it nice and tight, you see, just to secure it. And again, just double check that both the right sides of the ribbon are looking out. I'm going to have the ribbon trailing down our door wreath like so, possibly on an angle like that. There we go. So again, the wire will help to secure it in place. And then the wire that I have, I'm now going to stick that wire down through the foliage, okay, and poke away there. And now it's going down through the Christmas spruce, okay. It's just bent up a little bit. The last time I did this, it went straight through. It's gone through now. So I stick the wire right down into the base, and the wire is coming out the back. So probably you can't see it, but that's the wire there at the back. And where the wire came through, just make sure I have it pulled in tight enough. I'm then going to make like a U-bend, like what I did with the real wire, a U-bend, and then stick that surplus wire back into the base, anywhere at all, just so that it'll secure the bow in place and it's not going to fall out, or just a ribbon. Not going to do a bow today. I've lots of videos on YouTube how to make bows. At this stage, to be honest, after Christmas, I'm probably sick of bows. And the last thing I'm going to do is a little door hanger on it for hanging it on the door. Now you can use a cheaper ribbon than what I'm using. You don't have to use this fancy thing. But you know what, after Christmas, sure, let's splash out. We're coming up to Blue Monday here in January. So get your length of ribbon, wrap it around the base, tuck it in underneath the foliage because you don't want to see it, you don't want to flatten it down. So it's a bit like giving birth here to the piece of ribbon. Here it is, it's coming through. And that will just kind of give you an idea. You see the way the ribbon is wrapped around the base, but yet you don't actually see it in the front. So just bringing these two ends of the ribbon, similar lengths, just going to tie a knot just to secure them. And then I leave the ends loose. And the idea is then that whoever I give this to, I'm actually going to give this to myself, I am going to treat myself. When you bring it home then, you can hang it on your knockers. So there is our hijacked hedge, our Christmas revamped up door wreath, our late winter wreath, or early spring wreath, or January wreath, whatever name you want to give on it. And as I said, this has cost us absolutely nothing. Hope you've enjoyed that class. Give us a thumbs up, comment underneath. Again, if you have any questions about any of our commercial or our professional courses that we hold here at Case Flower School, drop me an email, info@caseflowerschool.com.